actually take one quote from Malcolm I'll give you today. It would be, "This system can no more provide freedom for black people than a chicken can lay a duck egg." Right? It's just not meant to do it. Right? And this is the distinction. Malcolm's saying, actually, no, America, Britain, the West, it's not broken. There's nothing wrong with it. Anti-blackness is what it's supposed to do. It's always done it and it will always do it. And you're trying to get something to do something, it goes against its very nature. So one of the things with the myths of Malcolm, which ties into the myth, is with Malcolm we get this idea of an angry man who, he didn't have a political program, was very anti-white, didn't like women. There's all these myths you get from Malcolm, which actually come mostly from his autobiography. And I say autobiography, you read the autobiography of Malcolm X? Yeah, it's a very popular book, one of the most popular books in the last 50 years, certainly. A book which I, as a young person, I really enjoyed, right? It is a book that at least you feel a bit more radical at the end of it, but it's also a book that massively distorts how we understand Malcolm. In fact, having written the book and gone and spoke to people, I've come to the conclusion that it would have been better had that book never been published and had we never remembered Malcolm at all, because all of the myths get in the way. All right, so what's the key myth? One of the key myths is, so Malcolm was a criminal, he was a hustler, he was on the street, went to prison. This is all true, right? And if you seen the Malcolm X movie by, again, Denzel Washington's great, the movie is horrendous, really, honestly, but Denzel Washington, amazing. He goes to prison. When he's in prison, he has this conversion, right? He joins the Nation of Islam. You heard of the Nation of Islam? Yeah, now that's all these things do happen, roughly speaking, right? Now, Nation of Islam is a problematic organization for lots of reasons, right? Nation of Islam, this is where you get the idea that Malcolm is anti-white, because the Nation of Islam is anti-white, like actually very, very anti-white. The Nation of Islam has a creation myth. You heard of the term white devils? Yeah, so the white devil comes from the nation where they actually preach, and Malcolm preached as part of the nation, that white people are actually devils. Not like a metaphor, that were bred on an island by an evil scientist to be evil devils and rob and rule the world, right? And this is the story the nation still teach, etc., etc. Malcolm taught, and that's why you see that language of white devils. Now, one of the big myths you get from the Malcolm story is that he leaves the Nation of Islam, which is true. He goes to Mecca, so Nation of Islam isn't really Islam, isn't considered to be true Islam. So once he goes to Mecca, he becomes a Sunni Muslim. And that transformation is he's supposed to have given up all of the anti-white stuff. That's all gone away. Now he's a humanist who wants to work with everybody. This is simply not true, right? And it's not true on a positive way, right? So not that he's hated white people still. It's the key distinction that Malcolm made after leaving the nation was that, no, you are not individually devils, right? But white society was evil. This is an important distinction. Malcolm doesn't take away any of his critiques of white society. He just says, no, look, you are not individual devils. No, white people are not individually evil, but collectively the society is the most evil, most brutal, most violent society that's ever existed. And that shift is actually a more radical shift, right? Because in the Nation of Islam, their solution, what Malcolm always said was the solution is religious. So the Nation of Islam essentially believed white people are devils, black people are not devils. All we have to do is separate ourselves and Allah's going to come and wipe away the devils. And that's it. So you don't have to get involved in politics. You don't have to be involved in anything. We just wait and see and it will all take care of itself. Where Malcolm always thought that's a bit strange. We should be on the streets, we should be organizing, we should be doing things because the society is sick, right? The society is against us. And so when Malcolm comes back from Mecca, his politics don't change at all, actually. His politics are very, 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 very consistent, and it is the politics of anti-white supremacy, it is the politics of black revolution, and if anything, he becomes more radical, not less radical, when he comes back from Mecca, right? The other thing that the myth with Malcolm is about violence, right? We know Malcolm X is violent, Malcolm's violent, Martin Luther King is non-violent, and that was the big disparity between them. Again, completely untrue. Malcolm didn't commit any political violence at all, like not one piece of political violence. Malcolm, the thing that is true is Martin Luther King and Malcolm X are opposites, actually genuinely opposites, right? And actually, one of the myths now that we have is that they were coming together towards the end. This is simply not true at all, right? They were different, but they weren't different on the issue of violence, non-violence. They were different on the issue of how they understood what the society is. So Malcolm rejects non-violence. So straight up, non-violence makes absolutely no sense. You're dealing with the most violent system that's ever existed. How on earth are you going to fight that system without violence, right? As opposed to King and the Civil Rights Movement, who were saying, no, look, we must love our enemies until they overcome them with our soul force. If we're the moral right, then they'll change, etc., etc., etc. Now, that distinction isn't about whether we should go around killing white people. It's not the distinction. The distinction is, how do you understand society? So, civil rights, liberals generally believe that the problem of Britain or America or the West is that it just doesn't work properly, right? So, if there's the lack of access of us to the system, and there's a lack of, and you just need to reform it, right? So think about the civil rights movement. It's all about access. Can you get black people to vote? Can you get black politicians? Can you get black people into work? Can we get in, all right? And then once we're in, then we can reform it and we can fix it and we can change it. That is the bulk of black politics. Then it's the bulk of black politics now, right? Now, Malcolm completely rejected that. If you take one quote from Malcolm I'll give you today, it would be, this system can no more provide freedom for black people than a chicken can lay a duck egg, right? It's just not meant to do it, right? And this is the distinction. Malcolm's saying, actually, no, America, Britain, the West, it's not broken. There's nothing wrong with it. Anti-blackness is what it's supposed to do. It's always done it and it will always do it. And you're trying to get something to do something, it goes against its very nature. That's the radical analysis. That actually there is no reform you can make to this system that's ever going to make black people free. And think about where does the West even start? The West starts 1492. Christopher Columbus sails the ocean blue. Do they still do that in school? I don't know. Hopefully not. Jeez. Christopher Columbus, but talk about terrible people in history. That man was horrendous. So, yeah. But that is the beginning of the West, right? The West is founded on the largest genocide in human history. 65 million people wiped off the face of the earth in the 2 generations in the Americas. When Christopher Columbus arrives in what's now Haiti and the Dominican Republic, the midpoint estimate is that there were 8 million people on the island. 20 years later, the estimate is there were 20,000 people left on the island. That's the birth of the West. Then you have slavery, then you have colonialism. It is literally a system built on the erasure, the death, the racism of black people. Malcolm's telling you and saying, well, why would you expect anything different? When you see segregation, when you see police brutality, when you see black women are 5 times more likely to die in childbirth, why are you surprised when this is what the system is, right? That's the difference between Malcolm and mine. Not violence, non-violence. It's about the actual, how do we understand the system? Because what Malcolm's saying is the reason the civil rights leaders were non-violent was because they were trying to appeal to the people in power, right? Think about one of my favorite speeches of Malcolm was Message to the Grassroots, 63. It's very bloodshed. It's very much a Nation of Islam speech. But at the end of it, he goes into this off-the-cuff talk where he's talking about 63, the March on Washington. Remember that big I Have a Dream speech, that big showpiece event? And Malcolm was so upset about, I reckon there's no video of it, but you can listen to it if you just Google Message to the Grassroots. And he lays into it. He says it's a circus with clowns and all, a picnic. He calls it the farce on Washington. Says it was the worst thing that black people had ever could do, absolute atrocity. And he went to it. He actually went to the march. We watched the whole thing. And the reason he gives this whole story about the march. And I always thought maybe he's making some of it up just for, emphasis. But actually there's a book by Gary Young called The Speech. It came out about 10 years ago. Malcolm was 100% correct. Everything he said is true. And what he said is the March on Washington was originally a grassroots march, right? It was supposed to be, we're just gonna go, we're gonna shut down the city, everybody's angry. This was gonna be the angry black people going to shut down Washington. And what happens is JFK, who's president at the time, he finds out about this, goes to there's the big 6 civil rights leaders. So it's King, Randolph, there's a few of them. And he goes to them, look, you need to stop this march. If you want to have civil rights bills, this is before the Civil Rights Bill, before the Voting Rights Act, says if you want me to support you, you have to stop the march. And they turn around and say, look, we can't stop it because we didn't start it. That had nothing to do with us. So what do? right? They go, JFK gets a load of businessmen, gets $1 million, which is a lot back then, it's a lot now, but it's a lot back then, and gives it to the civil rights leaders and says, you now got to go organize the march. And that's what they do. So they actually take all this money from these white business owners and the president, and they then corporatize the march, right? They organize it, they bring in white celebrities, they integrate it. At the March on Washington, you couldn't take your own sign. You literally gave you, that's why if you watch any of the videos, it's like 3 signs, because you weren't allowed to take your own sign. It was the most stage managed event ever. Malcolm jokes, if you go to Washington, there's the Lincoln Memorial and the Washington Memorial. And they literally march between those. They only stay in that area. And he says, look, you're marching from one dead white man in Lincoln to one dead white man in Washington, right? And that's the whole march. They're literally out of Washington by nighttime. So you can't be in by nighttime. Now, if you heard of the sundown town in America are towns where black people couldn't be after night or you'd be lynched. They literally turned Washington into a sundown town. You have to come in and you have to leave before nightfall. And there was no alcohol sold. No women spoke. Literally, no women could speak at this march at all. They even banned James Baldwin from speaking. And James Baldwin's great, but James Baldwin's not like some radical firebrand of people. So if you actually watch it, it is this. So Malcolm's looking at this going, wow, this was supposed to be the revolution, and it's turned into. He said this is where you get the famous quote where he says, it's just like coffee. If you have black coffee, if you put enough cream in it, it won't be coffee anymore. It used to be hot, now it's cold. It used to wake you up, now it puts you to sleep. Right? Malcolm is spitting when he's so angry about this thing. Say, look, we've just diluted the march. And this is why Malcolm's against things like integration. Not because he's against white people. He's saying, look, this is what happens when you integrate it. You actually dilute it. You take away the radicalness of it. This is what happens when you give it to the civil rights leaders. They're trying to appease the president, and it becomes something it shouldn't be. Right? Now, interestingly enough, both of them are correct, but they just have different ideologies. If you believe that America can be saved, that you can reform, then that was the right thing to do, right? If we'd been out in the street, who knows what happens? Would the civil rights legislation have got passed? Probably not, right? At the end of the March on Washington, all the big 6 civil rights leaders, they have a picture with the president, and then you do get the next year, the Civil Rights Act, and then you get the Voting Rights Act. So King's 100% correct. Because he believes that's the way to go forward. Malcolm's also 100% correct because he's saying that's a dead end, right? The question we have to pick is which one do we think is right? And all the evidence will tell you, and this is why I say Malcolm is definitely the most important intellectual, because he's literally prophesizing what happens 60 years ago. So Malcolm tells you, look, this is a dead end. System can no more provide freedom than a chicken can lay a duck egg. So you can pass these laws, you can pass all the laws you want. America, in fact, has much better laws than here. America has affirmative action. Can you imagine affirmative action in the UK where you could actually hire people, take into account hiring people because they're black? Imagine reform would have won a long time if we had those laws on the books. That's completely illegal in the UK. Never happened. America has probably has the most progressive laws, has the most black politicians, black president, and everything, right? In fact, the civil rights movement is, without doubt, the most successful social movement of the 20th century. Gets everything it wants. But 60 years later, we're still complaining. You have mass incarceration. It's probably worse for black people in America today than it was then because you now have mass incarceration, right? The figures on mass incarceration are so bad that a black boy born between 2000 and 2010 has if you have no high school, so if you leave high school without getting a diploma, a 60% chance of going to prison in your lifetime. 60% chance, more chance of going to prison than not going to prison if you're a black man born from 2000 to 2010 with no high school degree. Even if you have a college degree, you have a 33% chance of going to prison. I mean, it's unbelievable. When you actually look at it, it's absolutely unbelievable just how bad the situation is in America. So you have all these things to pass and it's still worse, right? Malcolm told you, he said, what the best you'll get is token integration. He calls it token integration. And that's what we have. Black professors, black presidents, some kind of black middle class, Jay-Z, etc. But for most black people, it's actually probably worse than it is now. And I would say that's the same here.
To continue watching this video, click the link in the top left or in the description below.
With a free trial, you can enjoy the full talk and thousands more.
Thank you for being part of the conversation.